Hi, I'm Sophia Stoller, and I am the upper school dance teacher at Crystal. I started dancing at age 2, so I'm not much of a person yet, but I really became passionate about it when I was in high school. Although I danced all the way through, like, studio recitals, and then I started competing in high school. I think in those formative years, I always remember thinking, like, I remember dance was one of the first words I learned how to spell. Like, it was always just central to my life. So I can't really say who I was without it. I think that the combination of athleticism and artistry is really something that compels me. I love like pushing my body to its limits and feeling that there's sort of a masochistic feeling that dancers like, which is like pain, pain of stretching yourself really far and pushing yourself really hard in all kinds of physical ways. But unlike other sports, which I did play and dabble in, this one the ability to tell a story through that process of pushing my body was something like that combination really has always drawn me in. And as I got older, first it was just perfecting the athleticism of it and the technique, but then starting to become a choreographer, that ignited this whole other world of what dance can be, which is truly just an art form of creating, these moving pictures on stage and telling a story. And so in any stage of my life where I was dancing less, I found that I was just less happy. Like, I think it's always supported my mental health, my physical health, as well as just my overall well-being. Well, in high school, it was very social, in addition to everything else. But you find your people in the activity that you commit to, and it becomes a community. And so, I think that was a big part of it for me when I was younger. And then in each stage of life, as I got older, I decided to study it in college and then grad school, and then start a professional company and become a teacher. And now I'm forgetting the question. What was relationship change? So started more social, and I think it there were points where I thought, like, I remember thinking when I went to college, I double majored, and I was like, well, there will be like my real career will come. Like, this is like something that I can't pursue in a real way. And I think we're often told stories of, like, as athletes or artists, it's very hard to, and it's true, it's very hard to actually have a successful career in those fields, or to make money in those fields, because you have to be the very best to get to that point. But it kept shifting for me of like, well, I can just reinvent what that looks like at each stage of my life, until eventually it did become my career. And that kind of surprised me. But I really was able to get into it through teaching, because that was an avenue that was a little more accessible to find a job in. And then in the beginning, the teaching jobs sort of supported the professional art hobby, whatever you want to call it, because I wasn't making money doing that. But as I grew in my skills and in my contacts and in my network, I started to actually be able to like land gigs for money as a professional dancer as well, and a choreographer. Yeah, I mean, in some ways, always. I think like it's always been a huge part of my identity, and so uh, I feel like I walk with that at all times. I love that I have so much awareness of my body, and I think that I carry that through every place I am, whether or not I'm in the studio. For sure. I mean, it is such a specific, well, there's so many different techniques, but particularly in ballet, it's very, very strict. There's very specific standards of what bodies look like in that particular discipline. And I remember when I was younger, despite being like, you know, a fairly petite and like fit young girl, I was told by my teacher that I was like not skinny enough, and that like I remember she would like slap me on the stomach with her remote control that she was using for the stereo, and like suck in your stomach and things like that. So yeah, definitely challenges along the way. Remind me of the question one more time, just so I can answer maybe another side of it. What sorts of insecurities? Yeah, and then I think also like it's so easy. I danced competitively when I was younger, and it's so easy to compare yourself to other people. And so one of the things that I try to do here as a teacher is actually like remove that layer, because I think for me it stunted my ability to grow by trying to always be comparing, or or having teachers that sort of highlighted my insecurities of like, this is where you need to get better. And I think there's a way to reframe that when training to focus on like helping someone rise to their greatest potential, but not necessarily just pointing out like all of the flaws, if that makes sense. I think that it's helped that I've had kind of different avenues and ways into it. So like there have been stages in my life where I was only dancing, and in that role as a dancer, or other stages where I was only teaching or only choreographing. And so I think, and then other times I've done all of them at the same time. But there's never really been a lapse for any extended period of time since like when I started at age 2 that I've stopped doing it entirely. And so I think having these different inroads has really helped me maintain my connection to it. And I remember when I started teaching more, feeling like, wow, how lucky am I that I get to wake up in the morning and go straight to the dance studio. And that's something that is a rare job to find as a dancer. Like to have like a full-time job dancing all day in the studio is very hard to achieve. But as a teacher, being able to come and wake up and like be dancing first thing in the morning has always really kept me going. Yeah, I mean, to this day, I think what that looks like now is that I have a family. I have 2 young kids, and I'm here a lot. And I actually also have a professional dance company outside of Crystal. It's called Iris Company, and we're doing a big show in San Francisco this summer. And so balancing all of that, it is a sacrifice. I mean, my kids miss me. I'm here late nights for rehearsals, um, and I do feel like it takes its toll, and I make up for it in other ways of trying to like really be present with them when I'm able to. I think in earlier stages, like before I was married and had kids, just like my social life, like even in my younger years, high school, college, thinking about even in my early 20s, like when I still really wanted to be socializing, a lot of times rehearsals would be like weekends and evenings. And so I'd be doing that instead, like my friend group would be going out or whatever, like, oh, there's this dinner. And I'd be like, oh, I have rehearsal. And so that it's hard, but I do find that like at each stage of my life, I've chosen that. And so there's obviously a reason that it keeps drawing me back. I think that some of my first performances at UCLA definitely like set me off on a new trajectory because in high school I was doing like more commercialized dance competition. It was a lot about how many turns can you do and how high can your leg be. And so I really thought of it in that more of a sport way where it can be like quantified and it's better or worse depending on those details. And when I got to UCLA, it really hit me in the face, and it was so foreign to me to think about it as like storytelling first and like what is the intention. And if you talk to any of the students here that work with me, that is the thing that I've carried now so much as a teacher, and I think has really made a difference in the work that they're creating is like, what does it mean to you? Because actually a lot of people who are watching it aren't going to know the difference between the exact placement of your leg when it's up here and like the rotation of your hip, but they will feel something if you communicate your emotion and storytelling effectively. So I think, yeah, that I don't remember the exact piece, but early on in my time training there, I feel like it kind of like ricocheted me in a new direction of like, oh, this is so much more meaningful actually than I even realized prior. It was early 20s. I graduated from college, and I was teaching. Actually, I was teaching a lot all the way through. I was teaching. I like ran a little high school, or when I was in high school, I ran a little program for young kids out of my like community rec center where I lived in the neighborhood I lived, and then in college, I was really just focusing on dancing, but I did some choreography during that time. But when I became a real adult, I'll put that in air quotes, real adult, because when you're 22, you're still not, I don't think, a real adult. But I felt like I was, and I needed to make money, and I needed to pay my rent for the first time. And so I realized, like, oh, these dance gigs are not going to pay my rent. Like, even if I'm getting paid, I remember one of the first companies I danced with, I think I got paid like $10 an hour or something. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but still, I don't even think back then that was minimum wage. And that's when I fell into teaching, like in schools. A job kind of fell in my lap from a contact that I had, and I was like, okay, sure, let's try it. And then, and that is a more sustainable salary. But then from there, I really fell in love with education. And then I started just on the third kind of piece of this, I started my company shortly after that and started really pursuing developing choreography as a professional and presenting work. And my work's been presented internationally and all over. Well, so we do something that's kind of unique, which is immersive performance. So the audience, it's kind of like if you imagine going to a gallery, but then the performers are all around you and telling the story. And I also like to collaborate with uh, video designers, lighting designers, composers. So it's all these sort of different elements, even like set pieces, different elements coming together to collectively tell a story. So my hope is that the audiences will feel like they get to be part of something. I think it's that type of experience is really different than just sitting in an audience. Um, and so the show we're doing in San Francisco this summer is going to be fully immersive, and people are on their feet, and it raises the stakes for you as an audience member. You have agency. You get to choose where you want to go. Sort of like if you went to a haunted house and were exploring, except it's not going to be scary, but like this feeling of being inside of an experience that sort of raises your senses and adrenaline a little bit. And so in that state, I think audiences are more able to take in the story and experience it in a visceral way. So I hope the Crystal community will come see my show this summer. It's in July. Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. I think it's really special to work with people who have never danced before and kind of invite them on this journey of like self-discovery and confidence. And something that I really try to do is meet each student where they are and help them feel seen and help them realize that they have like at any level and any skill and any body, there's something to offer. Every human has something to offer if they want to in this art form. And so that's a really rewarding experience. It's gotten easier over the years. I actually used to be a huge mess leading up to shows. I would carry a lot of anxiety around, are people going to like it? Like, what if people don't like it? What if I drop a ball and like something falls between the cracks? And over years and years of experience, I realized a few things that really helped with my ability to maintain like my cool through the process. One is that I know not everybody's going to like it because everybody likes different things. So that's okay. And I don't like every movie and every show and every painting out there. People are going to be drawn to different things. And so every piece that I make is not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. And that's actually a beautiful thing that people have, their own perspectives and opinions. And then when it comes to like logistics, I've just gotten really good at being organized, which helps. Like I have systems, and so I know the systems won't fail me. But also knowing like if something does, like I do drop a ball or something falls between the cracks or things aren't happening on schedule, it's gonna work out. Like it always comes together. And sometimes the students are stressed. Like in this type of setting, when I'm working with teens, everyone carries their own anxieties. They're the ones going up on stage, and so I try to just be like a really calm, stable presence to remind everyone that like we always feel like it's not going to come together the week before, and then it always does. Like it's always okay. So yeah, I think I see parts of myself in many of the students, and maybe that's like helps me approach my teaching from an empathetic place. I was not always the best. I think that's actually like kind of turned out to be a superpower for me. At the time, it felt so vulnerable. And like sometimes my friends would get cast in things that I wasn't, or like we would audition for the competition team. And I remember there was one year that my entire close friend group got into the piece and I didn't. And it was like very painful at the time. I felt pretty shattered by it. And like now, today, I feel like that was such a formative experience that made me more resilient. And it was really a realistic viewpoint into the world of trying to be making it as an art form, because you get so many more rejections than acceptances. That's just the reality of it. And so being able to process those things at a younger age, I think really helped me prepare myself for being ready as an adult to face that. And so I think about that, like it's hard. I don't enjoy delivering disappointing news to students ever, but I remember that part of myself, and I think they're going to be stronger because of this. It's going to be okay. And I always try to approach and explain that like every decision is made. Like let's say, for example, placing in levels, decisions are made to serve the student primarily. But yeah, having that empathy, I think, does help me connect more with the students. I I think that the more that technology comes into our lives, it's so easy to disconnect as humans. We can communicate with our friends without ever looking at them and like making eye contact. Sometimes, you find like you're sitting next to three people and none of you are like interacting at all, and you're all just on your phones. And I don't mean your generation, like I do it too. And there's something really sacred about this space because we don't have our phones and we're not interacting with technology, and it is this pure human experience of moving our bodies, sweating, challenging ourselves, and expressing emotion like all at the same time. And um, there's so much connection that can happen through choreography that like you wouldn't otherwise do with, for example, a classmate, right? Like you wouldn't probably like lift a classmate in the air and just like casually, or embrace like in front of people necessarily. Like those can be very vulnerable things. But I think finding inroads that have structure to experience that type of vulnerability in a space that is like safe and developed for that experience is really unique in our current society. And I think that people who get to have that experience can take that into the rest of their lives forever.